guys, welcome to my next attempt at solving an Agatha Christie mystery. I've been trying to do this all year round, all year in 2022. This month I'm trying to solve the murder on the Lynx. So this will reach the halfway mark of the year and 6 attempts at trying to solve a mystery. Now, not all of Agatha Christie's mysteries have been whodunnits. I should have looked into that a little bit sooner, but I looked up a list and this one is supposed to be a traditional whodunit mystery with suspects. I plan on getting out my whiteboard, writing all the names down, doing all the things. So I'm going to start reading this book and then start sharing my thoughts and who I think has done it, whatever it is. I'm not going to read the back, I'm going into this blind. And if you guys want more footage of me trying to solve this, over on Patreon each month I have an extended cut with all my thoughts. I have to cut out a lot for YouTube, so if you want more, head over there. And yeah, I'm gonna start reading and then I will check in a bit. So I read the first, 50 pages this morning, and you can tell, I feel like you can tell that this is one of her earlier books. This one was published, I think, 1923. So yeah, this is definitely one of her earlier books. I'm not a huge fan of the writing so far, but we'll see where the story goes. So what is happening is Poirot is sent this letter or a telegram or something from this man who's worried about his safety, worried for his life. So, and it's in France. So Poirot and Hastings go down to France. They get there, and when they pull up, they're met by the police because this man has been killed. And so I'll tell you a little bit about the murder and stuff. So far I don't really have suspects, but I got my whiteboard here because there's like a few different clues that I want to be writing down that I can contemplate a little bit later. So this man, whose name is Renaud, that's his last name. I don't remember what his first name is. He was taken from his bed around 2 o'clock in the morning, according to his wife. She was tied up and they took this man out. And according to the doctor, death must have taken place at least 7, possibly 10 hours. So that fixes it between midnight and 3 a.m. And then, oh, apparently he has been seeing another lady on the side and she's coming to the house. There was a love letter in his pocket from a woman named Bella, and she even says, sometimes I fancy another woman is coming between us. Let her look out, that's all. And you too. I'd as soon kill you as let her have you. I mean it. That seems really like fake and suspicious. That's a little too obvious maybe, but maybe not. They found a fragment of a check in his room with the word Duveen. And Poirot is contemplating the fact that this man, he had his underclothes on because he was woken up from bed, and he wore his overcoat very long. Like, that's a random statement, but maybe that will play into something. These are all things I'm going to be writing down and taking into consideration as I go. And then the wife is describing the men. It sounds very fake. When she was describing them, I thought maybe she just made this all up, or she was kind of in on this, because there's 2 men, they were masked. One was tall and had a long black beard. The other was short and stout. His beard was reddish. That sounds so fake. You got like opposite ends of the spectrum here with these massive beards. Sounds very fake, and apparently Poirot was thinking the same thing. He examined her wrists where she was bound and he was kind of excited about that, but then she went to identify the body and she all out fainted. And instantly Poirot was beside her. He raised the lid of her eye, felt her pulse, so he was satisfied she'd really fainted, and he says, I'm an imbecile. If ever there was love and grief in a woman's voice, I heard it then. My little idea was all wrong. But I still wonder if maybe she was in on it, but he wasn't supposed to be murdered. Apparently the men took him from his bed and said they wanted the secret. They wanted to go see the secret. I don't know. He was stabbed in the back and then placed in a grave. So apparently the stabbing in the back indicates like a woman, but the grave had to have been dug by a man, according to what I'm reading. So I'm very confused. We don't have any suspects yet, really, other than the wife and maybe some of these other women he's been seeing on the side, but we haven't really met anyone yet. So that's the introduction. I'll write down my clues and then go from there. Okay, so I finally got to use my whiteboard after a few attempts at solving different Agatha Christie stories and not being able to use it. there's actually suspects and clues. I have a whole long list of clues, the ones that I talked about in my previous clip and the ones I'm going to talk about now. And then a few different suspects coming through. Let's see, we'll pick back up where I left off, which was page 50. And then I read about another 60 pages up to chapter 12. So a few different things have happened. Okay, so Mademoiselle Gabrielle, I don't know how to say it. Jack wanted to marry her. Jack ends up coming home. He was supposed to be going to South America, but his boat got delayed and then he found out about the murder. So he's back, and that's very suspicious. It felt like his mom maybe wanted him gone so that he wasn't under suspicion. I feel like she might be in on something. And so Jack wanted to marry Mademoiselle, but his father was really against it, and he also seems to be getting blackmailed by her mother or something. There's all these clues. There's too many clues. I should write the mother down here. Too many clues right now, and I'm not able to put them all together, but I'll just spit out all the clues and then hopefully we'll go from there. Okay, and then, so at the very beginning of the book, Hastings runs into this girl. She calls herself Cinderella on the train. And then, this was back in England. And then she shows up right in France, right where this murder is taking place. And he goes and he shows her all the different places. And she wants to see the dead body. And he shows her and she like almost faints. So he goes and gets her water. But I knew she was up to something. I thought maybe she was taking something off the body, doing something. But then a little bit later, the dagger, the murder weapon, is missing. So I think she grabbed that. He doesn't really know her real name. He was being conceited and just showing off. So that's unfortunate. But there's obviously something there. Oh yes, and then the last thing that I read here for this chapter was that Poirot measured the overcoats of Mr. Stoner, which I don't remember what his... I think he was like Renaud's assistant or something like that. He has a really long overcoat, and so does Jack, his son. So whenever he was mentioning that Renaud was in a really long overcoat, I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. Right now it's just been like verbal vomit with clues, and I'm gonna read a little bit more and then start sharing some suspicions and go from there. So update. I am on chapter 20, read 170 pages. Things are happening. I need to update my whiteboard. There is a section on a paragraph on page 155 in my edition where it says that there are 7 women directly and indirectly connected with the case. And he lists the 7 women and only 1 man, and that's Jack Renaud. And I feel like I should have all 7 of those women plus that 1 man. Well, the man is on my board, but I feel like I probably don't have all of these women. There's 3 servants that I don't have on here yet. I have the rest of them. But, oh man, there's things happening. So, Madame Gabrielle, however you say her name, she, years ago, was acquitted of murdering her husband with like all of these same characteristics going on. She woke up in the night with masked men that bound her, and it's like the same thing that is apparently has happened to Renaud. And just barely they arrested Jack, and so I feel like it's probably not Jack because it's never who they originally say it is, unless it really is Jack along with someone. Poirot says there's 2 people. So back, I think it was 20 years ago, that this lady was acquitted of murdering her husband, but it was kind of like a love triangle. There was another guy that was maybe 2 guys that were interested in her as well. I kind of got lost in confused in the story a little bit. But now Poirot and Hastings are talking, and they're realizing that maybe that 1 man that went missing 20 years ago, I don't really understand the story, is still alive or was still alive. Maybe he's the dead man who just barely showed up. There was a second murder, and it's a man who is dressed like a gentleman, but the rest of him seems like he's not really a gentleman. Like he's obviously wearing someone else's clothes, or they put someone else's clothes on him. I'm getting a little bit bogged down in this story, and I'm not quite far enough. I think there's 250 pages. Yeah, 250-ish. So I'm not quite far enough to lock in my answers, but I'm not sure. Why would this same murder happen twice? when the first one seemed to have been a setup already as it was. So this one's a setup, but by who? Is Madame Renaud in on it, or is the other lady who had it happen to her 20 years ago involved? I don't really know. So I'll share a few thoughts here. If I had to guess right now, I'm still suspicious of the wife. I feel like something else is going on there. I wonder if she was in on it with the other woman who apparently had this happen to her 20 years ago. Maybe they decided to recreate it and make the other woman look like she was like a mistress of Renaud, so that it wouldn't be thought that they were in cahoots together. But now I'm wondering if that was the case, is Renaud the man that went missing years ago, the one that had a crush on, well, or was having an affair with her? And oh, I kind of like this idea. I feel like I like this setup, whether or not this is actually how it went down. So I'm gonna read a little bit more, probably another 30-ish pages till I'm about 50 pages from the end. Seems to be about a good time. But right now that's kind of how I feel like it's going down. Does that answer things? Like, there's still a lot of clues that I don't know the answer to, and my current theory doesn't really give answers to that, so we'll see. But now I will read the next 30 pages. So it turns out that chapter 20 reveals pretty much exactly what I had just been thinking. Renaud is Georges, the man who was having an affair with Madame Gabrielle back in the day. So she's been blackmailing him. I actually guessed that. And right at the end of the chapter here, Poirot says that Renaud planned his own murder. And I read the first 2 paragraphs of chapter 21, and it says he planned his own death, but there's one detail that perhaps escapes you. He did not intend to die. And that is what I thought, because I just had another idea. Okay, because when Madame Renaud looked at saw her dead husband, she freaked out, she fainted, she had a reaction, and I kind of thought she was in on this the whole time, and she seemed surprised to see him dead, but it seemed like she was in on it. And I'm assuming they were gonna replace his body with that of the man that was found dead, that had been killed earlier. So I think they were gonna stage his death and then plant the other man as his body. And the mom didn't want Jack there because she didn't want him to have to identify the body, because she wanted to say, yeah, that's my husband, when it wasn't. This is kind of what we're told / more of my thoughts. So then that leaves less people to actually have killed him. So who actually killed him then? And then I'm assuming Renaud wanted to fake his own death so that he could get out, because I don't think he knew that Madame Gabrielle was living there. They kind of came across each other by accident, and she obviously wanted him out of the picture, or money from him at least. She's a threat to him. So he was probably trying to kill himself or make it look like he died so that he could move somewhere else and get away from her again. That's my guess. I still don't really know who killed her or who killed him. I guess if it's supposed to be like a woman crime, a crime committed by a woman, then I would probably think Madame Gabrielle or her daughter trying to cover up for her, or like, I kind of feel like maybe the daughter, because if she knows who Renaud is and the pain that has caused in their life. Well, I did it different than normal this time. I just sat on my couch and finished reading it, and there were some twists that I didn't see coming. I mean, when I was originally thinking about the one part, I was wondering about whatever her name is, the younger Gabrielle woman, but then I didn't really see any reason, and it turns out it was money. So I didn't see that coming. Even though I got tricked in the end, or even maybe because I got tricked in the end, I like it more. I don't like it when it feels like it's an obvious mystery when I'm going into it expecting a whodunit. So interesting. I'm gonna reflect more on what happened over on Patreon, and then normally I also read a little bit from her complete secret notebooks on Patreon as well. But once again, there is not any information on here on this book, probably because it's one of her earlier ones. So this is, what is it, 73 of her private notebooks that contain different thoughts and plots for her mystery novels, but it doesn't quite have all of them in there. So thanks so much for joining me for another Agatha Christie mystery.